Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakthrough Moment podcast. Zac Deane here with Zack Jenkins. Thank you so much for being here, Zac.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Zach.
You've got this. We've got the same name. This is going to be fun. So cool. So, for those of you who have only joined this podcast for the very first time, this is to share successful entrepreneurs' pivotal moment throughout their career that have broken them into the next level of success. And as they share their breakthroughs, us at home can have our own breakthroughs as well. And so today's special guest, Zac, was a former drug addict. He's turned entrepreneur. He's started his first business 6 years ago, first company 6 years ago. And now, get this, has successfully generated over $2 million in revenue in the past 12 months in the high ticket sales space. So this is going to be, I'm super curious. I love this space. And let's dive straight into it, Zac. I'm sure you got some incredible breakthrough moments. Over to you. What have been some of your top breakthrough moments throughout your career?
Thank you for asking me. So I would say the very first breakthrough moment was actually before I ever even started in the entrepreneur route or business route. I had my first business when I was like 11 years old. I did it for like 3 summers. And so it was always a spirit there of me wanting to do that. However, it had to have been back in like 20, I think it was around 20, probably 2015-ish, 2014, somewhere around there. The very first breakthrough moment I had, I was sitting there at my house in Ohio. I had my wife, my 2 children. We had a newborn at the time. And we had years before that, we had struggled just kind of financially, and I could never wrap my head around things. Like I remember walking to work, don't know what's going on. And so I stayed in that mindset for a long time. But then in Ohio, we were leaving to go to the park. We had our kids, we had the neighbors' kids, like we were leaving to go to the park. We were walking out the front door. And when we walked out the front door, it was a black tow truck pulled up. And I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, okay, maybe, I didn't know what he was there for, right? And I'll never forget it because he basically backed up to our car. What we learned was our car was up for repossession at the time. And so we were trying to leave for the park, and the tow truck driver was there literally hooking up to the car, and it was the only vehicle we had. And I would say that was the very first breakthrough moment I ever had, because I realized in the moment that not just the devastation, right, to my wife, but also to myself as a man. I'm like, this is not right. So long story short with that, the tow truck driver basically said, hey, you've got 24 hours to get this thing caught up, or I'm coming back for the car. What prompted him to leave, I don't know. But he left 24 hours to get it caught up. It was caught up. And it was in that moment I felt like I failed as a man, and also as a father with 2 new kids. That was my very first breakthrough moment to say, I'm at a point now where I have nowhere else to turn. I've got to make a difference. And that really laid the foundation and the groundwork for me to really start grinding and say, hey, look, there's better opportunities. You're in control of your own life. Go out there and make it happen. But that was my very first breakthrough moment I ever had.
Wow. What a reality check. What a reality check. So you turned it around in 24 hours. How did you do that?
Thankfully, really, it's not even 100% on my own. My wife actually reached out to my mom, and my mom was like, hey, of course, my mom did not necessarily have it, but was like, hey, you're my son. Like, let's, try to put something together, which brought my stepdad into the picture. And at that point, we were 3 months behind on the payment. We were going 4 months behind. So they caught it up for 1 month. And then we basically scrapped together everything else we had, and dumped it towards it. So that way they would at least pull it off the repo list.
Wow. Crossing that pressure, the uncomfortable zone, and especially having your family and everything there, that would have been quite some mental, emotional pressure for you. So do you have any advice? There's other people out there, entrepreneurs out there who are struggling, going through a similar kind of experience. Do you have any advice for them to help them move through these times?
Advice, I would say the biggest piece of advice is the moment the moment that you realize that you are in control of your own situation really is when it opens more doors, but it allows you to, number one, you have to step out of your comfortability zone, which is where growth is. But number two, really is owning that you're in control of your situation, regardless of anything else around you. You can make the decisions on what your next few moves are. And don't rely on other people. You have to rely on yourself. And I highly encourage relying on others in forms of mentors and teachers, stuff like that. But when it comes to really going after what you want in life and where you want to get to, it's up to you to take control over it. That's my one piece of advice. And second, to follow it up, which is super important, is whatever situation you're in now is not permanent. It's literally just temporary. So the longer you can, the quicker you can get out of that temporary uncomfortable situation, the better off you're going to be. But just know nothing in life is permanent, nothing at all.
That's right. They say the only constant is change. So it's coming, but in the moment, it feels like it's never coming. It's like we're stuck in it forever. So yeah, wow. Wow. Interesting. I guess, yeah, like from then, what happened? How did you then continue to then, have that resilience, have that motivation, then how did you get into the high ticket space? How did you, that's quite incredible what you've done in the last 12 months. Tell us a bit about that.
So from 2016, so basically 2016, back when all that happened in Ohio, I want to say it was somewhere around 2016. But anyways, around that time, I basically said, "Hey, look, I've got to make a change." At that point, I was driving truck. At that point, I used to love it. I've learned why now. It's because like zero responsibility. You just drive and get where you're going, right? But, it's like, yeah, it's good while it lasts, right? However, through that journey, I began to really see what are some better opportunities for me for growth, right? I figured at that point, like, I have to have growth in my life. Otherwise, I'm just going to stay stagnant. So that's when I really started looking into, like, not just personal development, but like, how can I be a better man and a better person? So a couple years out, it was like a year, it was, no, 6 months to a year after that, we ended up moving. So we moved to North Carolina after that. Went back. I was running tow truck at the time when we moved to North Carolina. I did that for a little while, and then I just said, really, I was leaning on faith, and I was like, I have to do something different after that. So this is actually another pivotal and a breakthrough moment for us. So when we were living in North Carolina, I'm like, how do I advance? What do I do? I'm like probably similar to the other entrepreneurs. Like, a lot of the jobs that I've had, I didn't like. I didn't get along with the boss. I didn't like, it just wasn't my thing because I saw a better way to do it. Right. So we lost everything in North Carolina. House, furniture, we lost literally everything in North Carolina. So we were without a house due to black mold, living in temporary housing. And it was Christmas. It was Christmas that year. And the owner of the house, it was a short-term rental, but it was our landlord, so he had to house us for the time being. And December 1st, he's like, "Hey, you guys have to be out by the end of the year." And I panicked. Like, dude, it's Christmas, my son's birthday. I don't know. I didn't know what to do. And again, I found myself in this position of, I felt like I had zero control over what my situation was, right? I knew I had some, but I felt out of control because he's like, "You have to move." So anyways, we worked that out with him, because we were still trying to rebuild our life and find a new house. So it was at that moment when we stepped out in faith and moved to Georgia, and literally we packed up, we left, didn't have a job lined up, nothing. And so I started reaching out, started applying, got a management role at a national trucking company. And I stepped into that management role. I was the youngest guy there, so it was very awkward. had a team of 45 people under me that were old enough to be my grandparents. I did that for about 7 months. And through that process, I began to really better my leadership abilities and my communication skills. So really it was like 7 or 8 months later, we had some personal things going on with our family. There was, we had to go to Florida, and the higher ups from where I was at the trucking terminal said, "Hey, we need you here. You can't go." And I was a third time back in the situation, like, dude, I want control over my life. So I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm done working for the man. I'm sick and tired of it. I don't care what happens to this, but I'm done. So we were sitting at our house in Georgia, and my wife and I look at each other, and I remember this conversation like yesterday. I said, "Hey, if I go out there," and so we still had a riding lawnmower at that point. I said, "If I go out there and that lawnmower starts, we're leaving here and we're going to go to Florida and start a company." So literally, we just like, yeah, sure, whatever. It was like November of November of 2019. So sure enough, go outside. It works. I'm like, hey, it must be fate. Let's go. So I left for Florida at that time, and my wife soon followed. But when I got to Florida, like, we didn't have a house. We had no clients. I had no business plan. I had nothing. I was like, look, I'm just going to go down there. Grass grows in Florida. I did it as a kid. I'm doing it now. And so through that journey, I started that up, and it grew very slow. Like, we lived with her grandparents for a very short period of time to find a house, and had a friend that let me borrow some equipment. And so I started putting it together, and I very slowly building, because I didn't know advertising. I didn't know anything about how to sell. That's it. So essentially it took a few months, but it started taking off. And her and I, she ended up following like 2 months later, and her and I were like, hey, this can turn into something. So that was when we started, like, we had our first $5,000 month, and I'm like, this is nice. Like, we have total control. If I want to go away for the weekend, I can. If we want to go to a nice dinner, we can. If I want to buy something, I'll buy it. And so for me, that first $5,000 to $7,000 month was like, dude, I was like, man, I'm making it, right? So we ended up doing that for several years. We scaled the company. It was a very slow scale itself. We got it into the multiple 6-figure range, and we just thought, like, we were cooking, right? So basically throughout that journey, and really we had a lot of moments there. Like, when we had we started moving into like doing larger landscape jobs, commercial jobs. And like, we maybe, send an invoice for 15 or 20 grand. It's like, okay, now I'm like, man, now we're doing something. But I realized through that time that what I was learning, while it was a very slow growth, I was learning more about what it takes to have a business or work for yourself at that point. And I also learned that you have to follow, like, you have to look up to those that have been through what you're going through before, or what you've been through, right? And what you're going through. So found a mentor there. His name is Lonnie, the best student in the whole entire world. I still talk with him today. And we had to go buy some new equipment. It was one of the largest purchases we had ever made in our life, when we went to go buy equipment, because we were expanding. And he basically took us under his wing. Hey, I've been through this. I know what you guys are going through. We hit it off. We clicked really well. And so we really we relied on him a lot in terms of guidance. And it was a couple years after we had started it. So it would have been back in 2023. We're like, hey, I think it's time to sell. We were like, hey, I think it's time to sell, but we're not really sure what's going on. So met this gentleman that literally, like, my wife had been praying, like, if this number is presented, we're selling. Sure enough, that number was presented, and it was a very small, like, it was, relatively speaking, right, it was a small amount. However, it was like, hey, we can do this. So we started another company in the midst of starting a new company. And that company itself, we had a partner with that company. And we we probably did. That was really when it clicked to me, like your worth as a company and as a person will increase based on the circles you're in, right? So basically, scaled that company very quick. Like we happened 6-figure months very, very quickly within a couple months, and partnership foiled just due to disagreements. I had bigger, like I knew what I wanted to do. I want to build an autonomous operation. The partner did not want to, and so I got a call about high ticket space through a mutual friend. Like, hey, it was a younger company. We're really looking for, solid talent. We want somebody to come in that can help expand the team, just really just grow with the company. And so basically I said, I've never done it before. I'm sure I can figure it out. We had already sold our landscaping company, so I couldn't fall back on that. This other company, again, we were leaning on faith and we felt we needed to move, but I couldn't because that company was holding us there. So the second company we started, we ended up walking away from that company. And I was like, look, I have no fallback plan, but let's do it, dude. Like, why not? And so it definitely took some learning, but picked up on it very, very quickly. And it's since changed my life because there's so many opportunities. And you can provide so much value to people, man.
Wow, what a journey. Congratulations. That's super cool. That's super exciting. There's a few key themes I'm hearing is the support of family that you've had, whether it was getting support to get the car, making sure the car wasn't repossessed or moving in with your grandparents. So having your partner or wife there as a support, but also having the drive to want to provide and do better and improve and, turn this around. You've been on an adventure. So that's insane. It's incredible. You mentioned a little bit about faith and praying and things like this. Has that been a big support? Has that been a foundation throughout this time for you? Has it always been there, or is it?
No. So no, I mean, as a child, growing up, we went to church once a year. So, and I had a little pocket Bible and stuff, and I had always knew what praying was, but it was never a big part of our life. At no point. Now, my wife, on the other hand, yes, like she grew up like church every Sunday, Sunday school, Wednesdays, grew up in it, right? But when we got married, literally like graduated high school, married, off and away. As soon as we were 18, we were married and we moved out of the state. So, and she is you mentioned a support system. I rely on her for a lot. Like I couldn't have done what I've done without her. So with that being said, faith has not been a big part. It was more so back in like 2020, actually, like right around 2020, I just started feeling, I'm like, I've got 2 boys. Our life is getting better. But I want to do more and I don't know how to do more. How can I do more? And that's when I started leaning into my faith. I'm like, hey, I've got this Bible I've had my brother got it for me when I was younger. Like I've got this Bible my brother got for me. And so we just started really leaning into faith a lot at that point and trying to figure out what is next. But the biggest thing is it doesn't matter how much money you make, right? Money is not fulfilling. It's nice to have, it makes life easier, but how do you have to have a purpose. And so I felt like there was more of a purpose there for me. So to answer your question, it was not a big part of growing up or even up into my early adulthood. It wasn't until right around like 5 years ago is when we started leaning into it. And we just leaned into it more and more. And now it's just a normal part of life for my wife, both my children, just normal part of life for us. It's a big part of our life.
That's great. That's so good. Me too. I didn't grow up per se with, strict or kind of, it was very open in terms of probably new age kind of upbringing. Went to an all boys Catholic college and things like that, got baptized as Catholic and then kind of turned to Christian when I was 27. And I saw an exorcism. It was pretty insane. Like the spirit took a hold of a friend of mine. It was the wildest experience. And then, but since then, that's been my I guess, awakening in that respect. And it's been a big part of, my day, to that spiritual support that I think is really important. It can be easy to get carried away as an entrepreneur, or get pulled down into drama or issues, but it's been, a big support to get me out of that in a more holistic way, I guess, more balanced way. I'm really curious to know if how did your faith also support you throughout the getting out of your addictions as well, or how did you do that specifically? Like, that would have been a massive breakthrough moment for you as well, hey?
So it a little bit, like a very little, like a little bit it did. It was probably a bigger part than what I know. I should say that. It was a bigger part than what I know. Um, but it wasn't, I didn't, because I got out of that years and years and years and years before ever becoming an entrepreneur or anything, like 4 years before. So it really, while faith was a big part, it was more of a blind faith than anything. It's like, hey, I just want to make it through, or like, but it wasn't. I think I leaned on it way more than I realized, but I didn't know at the time. But no, like I just at that time when I was first starting, like the recovery and really trying to better myself, I just surrounded myself with um, guys that had got on the other side, like the 12-step programs, right? Like that's the people I was with, and that helped tremendously. And I actually, yes, I was introduced more to faith during that because his name was Alexander. Now that we're talking about this, I'm looking back on it. And he was very, very like faithful. And he always would tell me like, hey, you've got to pray and you've got to come to this understanding and rely on God, and just you've got to pray more. And so it was a bigger part than what I realized. But it wasn't a um I still didn't even really take it seriously at that time. Like truth be told, I was just um those years I just went through life, dude. I literally just moved through life like water moves through a canal.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Do you have any any advice for maybe someone stuck in their own addiction, and they're in their own cycle, and they're wanting to break out of that? Because that's a massive breakthrough of, if you've got through that, man, and then you've not just made lemonade, you've made a lemonade factory. It's a big testament to, you're doing something right.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you bringing that up. And I normally my recovery, I probably discredit it more than I should, right? Because I know there's other people out there that are going through it. And it's actually my wife is the one who's encouraged me years ago, like, hey, try to speak about it more for those that are going through it. But those that are in the grips of addiction, right? It's you have to you're missing something, right? That's why it's there. You're missing something, and you have to really, we see all the time the intervention shows, and families are like, I need to intervene, I need to do this, I need to force force my family into a rehab and all this stuff. Um, Anybody that's going through that and whose family is pushing them that direction, I highly encourage you to get the help, but don't get the help for your family because it won't work. You have to get the help for yourself, but really, truly, you have to look at it from a perspective of what is it that you're looking for, right? What is that substance or whatever what is that substance or whatever you're addicted to? Because remember, like it could even be social media. There's a lot of things. What are you longing that you're missing? And it might take a while to figure that out, but you have to sit with yourself. And also, you have to be willing to look yourself in the mirror and say, like, I'm being a slum. You have to be honest with yourself, take extreme accountability, and just know that you can only take it one day at a time, like 1 minute. I went many days, 1 minute at a time. Like, I'm just going to get through this moment, just this moment, just this moment. But you have to want it for yourself. It's the overarching theme. And you've really, like, you have to lean into faith more. Like, my journey would have been much easier had I really dug into faith and, just figure out what it is and cut out the noise. Don't let other people tell you how terrible you are. Cut out the noise, do it for yourself. And again, it's a temporary situation. It doesn't have to be permanent.
That's huge. That's great advice. I think, yeah, as you mentioned, there are many addictions in today's world, whether it's work, that can definitely be one of mine, to escape and just work and, get on with things, or whether it was when I was younger and I was playing computer games and I would wag schools of play computer games, you know what I mean? Like, or food's been a massive addiction of mine, and, or whether it's sex and porn and gambling and, social media, the lighting and the colors specifically are designed to take us in, bring us in, and actually when we look at our phone with light, it releases dopamine. So it's exactly what we get from a slot machine or gambling or sugar. So it's all relative, so that's a great advice. Doing it for yourself, coming back to yourself and having that faith and moving through it and getting support, which it sounds like you've got a lot of, which is awesome. I want to know a little bit of your business journey and a little bit about, if you could actually go back in time, Zac, and change just one thing before you started to become an entrepreneur, what would that one thing be that would have probably helped you in business a lot earlier?
That one thing, and we probably hear it a lot in the online space, that one thing is the biggest thing, I would have cut my friends out like a bad habit. I would have cut them, like, I've never had a whole lot of friends in my life, but I've had so-called friends and acquaintances. I would have cut them like a bad habit, because what that would have forced me to do was I would have found a mentor, right? So those two things go hand in hand. I would have found somebody else that had been through it that can help me through it, because the biggest thing with a mentor, aside from just the interactions and assistance, it puts you in the right rooms. So I would have been networking with other business owners. I would have been in the rooms with those people. Like, prime example, this past weekend, I was at a networking event surrounded by 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs, right? And I'm like, they're like, for me, I'm small peas to them, right? And so, I would have, it would have been really two-pronged: mentor and cutting out friends and getting with the people that I want to be like. Not who I am today. Who do I want to be like? I'm sitting at their table.
Great point. That's quite a common theme I've noticed amongst entrepreneurs. It's just human nature is like, we don't usually ask for help soon enough. We try to figure it out ourselves, and being someone that asks for help might be a sign of weakness, or that they're not good enough, or, not smart enough. But yeah, if you can ask for help sooner and get a mentor to help you through those times, that's when I've definitely leaped in my business and my development super quickly compared to when I haven't. The industry is changing so much, right? We've got AI and technology. Where do you see the future of the industry of high ticket sales and what you're doing? What's the future of it?
Great question, man. And I'll say too, like, I'm horrible at asking for help. I don't want to, I feel like I'm a burden, right? So, like, thankfully I have people that I don't necessarily have to ask for help. They're just pushing me like, hey, we realize this, or what can we do for you? So that comes from childhood stuff. But yeah, I'm terrible at asking. I think it's a dude thing too. We're like, hey, we got this. But I mean, the high ticket space overall, right? Like, obviously that's the industry I'm in. I actually just launched a new company in the space. And so, number one, with AI, it's great. It's amazing, right? Like, you can automate so many things, but you can't get rid of the human touch, right? The human touch will forever be there. Think about it like the automobile industry. I can go buy a car right now online, but there's still a ton of salespeople on the sales floor that are selling you cars, right? Because it's not, AI and technology will not completely replace the human interaction. But because of AI, what I've recognized is that people are now they recognize more when AI is involved because they're craving the human connection and they don't realize it until it's gone. So I think, if somebody wants to protect themselves from AI, especially entrepreneurs, if you want to, like, if you're trying to stay ahead of your competition and stuff like that, you have to implement AI. And something that will never be replaced by AI is online communities, right? You have a lot of platforms where you can set up an online community now. That will never replace AI. AI will not take that over because it can't. And so, second to that, I think in the online, not just the online space, but the high ticket space specifically, right? There's a lot of noise around it. I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's like a 200 some odd $billion industry, or it's projecting to go that way. In the online space as a whole, what I've recognized, and also I think consumers should pay attention to this also. And because if, business owners and entrepreneurs in the online space, we've got to get a grasp on this. But what I've recognized in the online space is that people are catching on to, I can spin a company up in 24 hours, but that company, then it'll drop off, right? Or it disappears and fizzles out. And so if you can really set yourself apart in that, even though it's online, even though it's high ticket, don't be like everybody else. And if you can separate yourself from the noise, separate yourself from the crowd, not only will you do amazing, but you'll be around forever, right? Like we have Tony Robbins, that dude's been around forever. He's not going anywhere. He forever runs ads. Versus now, you see AI companies spun up that quick and it's gone in 6 months. So I think that, we just have to, in the online space, we have to be mindful. Consumers have all the information at their fingertips. And if you're not being genuine and authentic throughout your entire process, they will call you out on it in a heartbeat, and they will recognize it, and your company will never survive. It's an impossibility. We're in the information age. Your company won't survive.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Human element. It's not, you can't replace that. Can't replace that. If they do, then we're all screwed.
That's why it's important to make as much money as you can to start investing, and hey, you're good, dude. You're good. If they replace us, it doesn't matter because you still get paid, man.
True. So what would be the main message for people today to listen, that are listening? What's the main thing you'd like them to be taking home?
I think the main thing, I was kind of racking this in my brain a couple weeks ago. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're at, or what's going on. You can take yourself anywhere you want to, whether that be in business, personal life, relationships, future. It doesn't matter, right? Because a lot of what held me back for many, 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 many years was I was like, dude, I just come from a regular family. Like, I don't like, everybody worked a 9 to 5. Nobody talked about owning a business. Nobody talked about, nobody talked about, you hear it even today. People are, what's a lot of money to one is a little bit of money to somebody else, and vice versa, right? And so you have to know, regardless of your situation, you can go wherever you want to. Had I realized that earlier on in life, I would have taken way more risk and done a lot of things differently. And also just remembering, like, things are temporary. The only thing, like you said, is constant is change. And so you try something and it fails. What's the worst that happens? You just try something different, right? I don't count anything as a quote unquote failure. It's a learning lesson, and that allows me to move forward. So just know that you're qualified, right? If you have a goal or a vision, you're qualified to do whatever it is you're trying to, and learn how to delegate, and assign, especially the business owners, don't hold on to every part of your company. If you know that you can generate, $1,000 an hour while you're focusing on this task over here, go hire an assistant to do it for $5 an hour and just let go of that piece, because you can scale very quickly and take yourself out of the business. But yeah, I think the one thing, if anybody could ingrain this in their mind, is just know that doesn't matter where you come from, you can go anywhere you want. And the last point on that event I was at last weekend, the gentleman who put it on got a chance to spoke at the end, and we were all just talking, and he said one of his favorite quotes that he's ever heard, and one he lives by. And I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember exactly how he said it, but it was a light bulb moment for me. He said, "If I can buy someone today for what they think they're worth, I will forever make a profit." Forever make a profit, because nobody ever realizes what they're truly worth because they're afraid to ask, or they're not in the right circle. So it was very simple. Like, you think you're worth, 200,000 a year. Got it. I'm going to write the check to basically have you work for me for 200,000 a year, and you're going to make me a couple million because you didn't realize your true worth. And a lot of that comes from limiting beliefs and being stuck in, just being stuck and not believing in yourself.
Wow. What a powerful realization. Yeah, we get to choose. How much are we worth? How do we want to show up? And it's a choice, isn't it? And if we don't have the people in our corner letting us know, we'll fall into those habits that we've learned from the people around us. So get into a room like what you mentioned, or get a coach and have a mentor and have that support and read and learn. Actually, on that point, do you have any resources, books that you'd recommend entrepreneurs out there? What have been some of your favorite books or resources during your journey?
I would say there's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's amazing. I think if you can get that book down pat, like, dude, you're going to go anywhere in life. I have my 8-year-old starting to read it now. So the one thing is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's an amazing resource. And also, I think another Think and Grow Rich is another one. That's a really good book. But I think it's a little, when it comes to resources, I think it's a little different for everybody, right? We may hear the same things, like I mentioned, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a big one. Ed Milet's been massive in my life. So we hear these constant names, but what I've learned, or what I've started to learn and realize, is that when it comes to like YouTube, wherever we're trying to go or get to, like if you're trying to learn how to eat better, meditation, whatever that is, go find someone on there that has not just a following, but somebody you click with, and take their content in and implement it the way that it fits best for you. Because there are a lot of resources out there and things you can do, like programs and just whether it be life coaching in general. I'm working with a gentleman now that is basically now a life coach. He was a prison consultant, right? To help basically consult people before they went to prison. So somebody's out there looking for what it is that you're offering. It's up to you to go find that resource, learn from it, soak it up, implement what works in your life, leave the rest, and just gather as much as you can, because you can listen to 10, 15, 20 different people. You pull one thing from each person, put that in your life, cut out the rest, and move on. But YouTube has been a savior for me. YouTube has been a huge savior for me, because people just share their information there.
For sure. YouTube, what a great platform. Yeah. I have the premium, so it's good. You can like watch or listen to something, and then you can still function on your phone, do other things.
Same here. It's
game changer.
When we started the lawn care and landscape company, that's literally, I had ear protection on that could play stuff, and I listened to nothing but Ed Milet, Tony Robbins. There was David Goggins is, way different style. Way different style, but like, listen to David Goggins. Oh, Um, the probably a huge thing that helped not just me, but my whole family, because we sat down and watched this. The movie, it's called The Secret. Dude, it'll change your life. It will change your life. You don't even understand it, but you have to watch it more than once and you got to soak it in. Oh man, it's powerful, powerful movie.
For sure, for sure. Secrets, that's one of the top ones. And then also the new Think and Grow Rich movie. It's not new, but it came out a few years ago. But the movie of Think and Grow Rich, that's really, really, really powerful as well. This is
I have to watch it. I haven't watched that one yet.
I'll flick you a copy. Last question, and then I'd love you to share with everyone who you help, what's the problems you solve in business, how can people get in touch? The last question is, you've been on this journey now, you've gone through some highs and highs, high highs and low lows, and now you're on this other side, and it seems like you're just really getting started with this new business, this new offer and things like that. You've got an amazing team and you're delivering some incredible results that you mentioned to me the other day when we spoke. What would be the biggest challenge, or like the one challenge or push or suggestion that you have for everyone at home to really help them, not just have that breakthrough, but really push them into that next level of success?
Great question. And there's a simple response. Set a realistic goal that you can achieve. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. I have these massive, massive goals written right here. And my wife's like, dude, you're nuts. Like, you need to have realistic goals. So for a long time, I kept myself very delusional, but then I learned the hack was small goals. So like, if you want to go to a nice restaurant one night and you're like, man, I don't know if I can do that. That's your small goal. Save up, go, check it off. Buy a car, save up, check it off, go. So like, you have to have these small goals along the way, because what you do. Exactly. And what many people don't realize is that every time you lie to yourself, you lose confidence in yourself, and you'll never make, really truthfully, your self-worth comes from inside, right? So like, small daily tasks. I'm not a huge fan of routines, but small daily tasks that you do every single day that build self-confidence and self-worth. Small goals. Dude, they were game changer for me. Literally, like, hey, we want to stay in a nice hotel in another town. Got it. It's a small goal, and it may seem like peanuts to someone else, but to you, what you're doing is you're proving to yourself, I can do that. So same thing in business. Smaller numbers, right? Small goal. We may have this overarching number. That's fine. What are our goals to get there? Cool. 5,000 a month, check it. 10,000 a month, check it. And you're like, dude, I can actually achieve my goals. And it just grows and grows. And what it does is it carries momentum. It builds momentum and it carries you. But yeah, that's the small goals. Anybody that's stuck, small goals, even if it's just like, want to go to the movie tonight, right? Check it off. And that was, for me, that was game changer. Because then the first time I hit the goal, I was like, oh, it's on like Donkey Kong, because now I know I can do it. Then what it did was it showed my family that it's possible to achieve your goals. Even though it was a small goal, it's basically to them showed, hey, it's possible to hit your goals.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Set those goals, get them done every day. I've got an awesome tracker that I use, and it just on a spreadsheet, and it has percentages and tick boxes, and it helps me gamify, the do and the do. So fantastic, Zac. This has been an awesome chat, full of golden nuggets for everyone at home. Please let us know, how can people get in touch with you, and who's your perfect client? Who is it that you help? And yeah, tell us a bit more about your business and stuff like that, so people can reach out.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak about it. So also drop that tracker you're talking about. I use a pen and paper.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Dude, that would be huge. That would be huge for a lot of people to do small goals and check it. Yeah.
If someone's name's Zac, they can use it. It doesn't work for anyone else.
Right. We got
Actually, I will. I'll put it in the comments or show notes here. I'll It's quite elaborate. It's like quite a big spreadsheet. And I was inspired by many people who are geniuses that I've kind of then taken that and created the foundation. So it's not all mine, but I've created it. And it maps out, 10-year vision, 3-year vision, 1-year vision, 90 days, 30 days, and then daily tasks. And then I have percentages on a spreadsheet and things like that. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I'll put it in around the video so everyone at home can check it out too.
Sounds like you got a subscription to sell. I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding. Anyways, so yeah, basically, the most recent company we've launched. So I launched it with a different business partner this time. We're both very grounded in faith, and my wife also gave the blessing and said yes. My wife's she's very good she's got good intuition. So the new business we started is called Kingdom Growth Partners. The name kind of speaks for itself in terms of what we are doing, right? We're going into companies and helping them grow. We're just giving them an outside look to say, hey, this is where you can save time, save money. This is where you can scale. But really, I mean, perfect client for us. So we have two different sides of the equation. One side, which is a very small, like very selective client base. We're helping them create online offers. So basically, they're a previous business owner, they're already an entrepreneur, and they're like, how do I do this? Basically, how do I do this online space? So that's the reason I say it's a small portion is just because it's very, very time intensive. And the second side is basically either an entire done for you sales management offer. So basically, we're bringing our team in to sell your product or service, whatever that is. And of course, along with that, like we're refining the systems to make sure it flows very smoothly for your clients first, and then for your business second, just really just making sure everything meshes perfectly. So we have a lot of different spinoffs there, but most companies that are doing, over 15, 20,000 a month in revenue, right? That's where we're kind of clicking. We've been able to take some companies well into the 7-figure mark. And so, it's just the perfect client for us is somebody that's like, I know I have a great product. I know I'm changing people's lives. The reason we started this company is because we want to work with people and clients who are truly changing lives. That's why we got into this industry in the first place, because it helped change mine, change hers, like everybody, right? So just somebody who's like, hey, maybe I'm stuck at doing $100,000 a month and I've been here for 2 months, 3 months. How do I get beyond $100,000 a month, or how do I get beyond $25,000 a month? And we're coming in and saying, hey, this is where we can realize revenue and let's make it happen. And then also just taking a top, really, I'm biased, but I'm saying a top A player sales team and dropping it in there for the clients. And so that way the business owner can focus on delivering results. Don't worry about sales. It doesn't let us handle it because we can do it. And the business owner can provide a better client experience, which allows the company to scale. So, and we do a lot of different things in terms of how we do that. Basically, whether that be placing virtual assistants, putting new softwares in place, putting an outbound system in place, that we called it the growth partners because we're not just a quote unquote sales agency. We're not just like a business consultant. We're looking at everything. Where can you grow? Ultimately, so that way you can grow and exit. That's the goal is let's grow it. So that way, if you want to exit, great, you can exit. If not, hey, just go impact more lives, man. That's the biggest thing.
Fantastic. So for everyone at home who wants to get in touch with Zac, I'll put the website and the links around the video somewhere. Please reach out and get in touch. But Zac, this has been an awesome chat. Thank you so much for your story and all the work that you're doing. And you're, not just leading the way in the business realm now, but also leading the way for your family and now inspiring other families to do the same. So, appreciate you and thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you as well. And I'll also, my name on Facebook is very simply just Zack Jenkins. That's we're using that for, that's the best, truthfully, that's the best way to get in touch with me. And then through the website, of course, like we have The scheduling link, where the website's being rebuilt now, but it's all ready. Like everything's active and it's proper now and it can be used. But yeah, we have like right there, we offer very simple consultation calls, right? Just to see where you're at. And also we like to network with other business owners. Where can we provide value, right? So I truly appreciate you, connecting and letting me jump on here, man. And I just hope that I was able to provide, a ton of value for everybody listening. I know that you've shared a lot of valuable insights with me as well. So, yeah, I'm excited, man. And this is just the beginning. Like where there's nothing holding, anybody back, not myself or anybody else. It's Q4, man. It's time to go crush 2024 numbers and just drive right into the new year. And it's Q4. This is when companies either make it or break it, is right now, Q4.
Oh, for sure. Great little speech at the end. Yes. Rev us up. Let's go. Let's have our breakthroughs, everybody. And yeah, let's do another interview in 6 months, 12 months. It'd be awesome to check in and learn the next handful of breakthroughs I'm sure you're going to have too. So thanks again.